thinking about it.
There we
Yay!
are. We're live.
Yay! It's super regional time. I made all the graphics. It's super regional time, and the Aggies aren't in it, but it's fine.
Yeah, sorry, Shelby. I couldn't tune into the Stanford game.
Every time Ethan watches Aggie baseball, we win.
That was the last game before the game, our final the other day. The last game I watched was when Texas A&M beat us, and I was like, well, I'm bad luck. Can't watch the rest of the season.
I honestly like watching those games. Nathan Detmer has been decent all season. Like he's been, but now, like, of course, he has the good game when the offense can't do shit. Of course, that's what happens.
Given it's a good pitching staff he was going up against, so it's not like.
Well, yeah.
It's not like you weren't hitting, Ole Miss. Like.
True. We did hit against Ole Miss. That was fun.
Everybody hit against Ole Miss.
I tell you, Mississippi State and Ole Miss sold like souls or something for those titles.
No, they stole from the welfare program.
Oh, okay.
No, that'd be good old Hattiesburg, Mississippi that gets to host my Super.
I was about to say they actually managed to stay in it.
No, I'm ready to have a conversation about Southern Mississippi.
Do we need to start on Southern Mississippi?
No, we don't have to. We can get there. If we start there, we'll have to end there. So I don't know. We might as well go through the rest first.
All right, let me pull up the official schedule.
Yeah, we might as well start with teams that are like national seeds.
Oh, you feel like
this is an SEC show. We only one of the SEC teams is not hosting their Super.
All I know is that the only reason that A&M lost this regional is because everybody and their mama was looking forward to we gonna play Texas, who's gonna host. And I'm like, y'all overlooked the regional, and now here we are.
The worst thing was Texas and A&M potentially matching up because one of those teams wasn't getting there.
It happens in basketball. It happens in baseball. It happens in everything. If you match us up, it's not going to happen.
Just wait till they join the conference.
Then you'll just get rained out.
Yeah, you guys can't run from them anymore.
Out. We're like, oh, darn. Too much rain. Not that I'm scared. Let's put that on.
Good save. Good save.
I'll put that on the record that I am not scared of TU.
It's so funny how mad both sides of that rivalry get when you talk about them being afraid to play each other. Like, it makes no sense for you guys not to play, and obviously there's like major logistics and all this stuff, but like you just blame one side. Whoever you're talking to, you just blame their side, and they just lose it.
It's Texas forever and always.
I still blame TAMU because we don't have a
Horns down.
Texas fan on here.
Horns down.
It's just more fun to blame whoever's actually here.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Ethan blames me for everything.
Because you're here.
It's my fault for most things.
I mean, let's be fair here. You guys are an agricultural school, and the best thing that you do is bioterrorism.
I put the cult in agriculture.
Yeah, you guys may have a running joke with Shelby because in 2020, Texas A&M, they were at 25% capacity in our game, and then after the game, like our entire team got COVID, and then in this past year when we played them, half their team had the flu, and then after the game, half of our team got sick. And so I blame Jimbo Fisher for using bioterrorism to win football games, even though he lost. But
he did lose. That is true. We won in 2020, though, and that's what matters. Because that was our last good season, so I'm holding on to that.
Same.
I'm holding on to that. All right, we start with, let's see. So we'll start with South Carolina and Florida starting tomorrow. Who's got opinions? I wonder if anybody on this podcast has opinions on that one.
I'll start if that's okay with you guys, and then you guys can jump in if you have something you disagree with. The worrisome part is that South Carolina swept us in the regular season. The good news is that it seemed like our bats woke up. Like I think that top to bottom, and let me preface this by saying I've really only watched SEC baseball. I haven't watched Wake Forest, but watching SEC baseball, I feel like top to bottom, Florida is like the best team in the country. Obviously, I'm biased, but we have like 2 legitimate first or second round picks as our first 2 starters. And then our third starter is possibly the Golden Spikes winner in Jack Caglianone, to where he leads the nation in home runs, but also is a lefty that throws 100 miles an hour. So I don't think that there's anybody else in the country that matches up what he does. Then we have Wyatt Langford, who's like a top 5 pick. He's right there with Dylan Cruz, and Screen from LSU is like possibly the best player in the country. The thing that worried me was the game that we lost to Texas Tech, and also we only put up 3 runs against FAMU. So it's like,
He just made my life. Okay, you can keep going.
yeah, Texas, man, those Red Raiders were big mad after we went, put up 13 runs to their
He
1.
literally messaged me and asked me how much I care about Texas Tech. The answer is 0.
I didn't know people actually care. I didn't even know Texas Tech had fans. Like, I just thought it was like, my opinion is that Texas Tech, and I will say I'm biased because I know a Texas Tech grad and he is a diehard Longhorns fan. Like my perception is that Texas Tech is just made up of people who didn't get into A&M or UT and couldn't afford to go to Baylor or TCU, and so they end up at Texas Tech. Like they're.
We missed you.
You broke up there, buddy.
Texas is not.
Oh God, I've not even got.
Texas is not UT. Just I throw that in there.
I can only handle one argument about Texas, and it's giving Shelby hell. You guys can have UT, TU, Texas, whatever. I'll say Longhorns just to keep everybody happy. Short. Oh God, I can't even say that.
Shorthorns? No. Okay. We'll put it. Let me put it in perspective. It's TU lowercase because uppercase TU is Tulane. UT is Tennessee, so therefore it's lowercase TU.
All right.
And they're not the state school. They're only the state school by default because we didn't want it. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one school that actually has unique lettering here, and that's Florida. I guess TAMU does too, but there's multiple UAs and UTs and all that stuff. So we're not going to get bogged down in that.
There's only one UT.
Yeah.
And they'd all be UMs of some sort, Universidad de Mexico, if it wasn't for them. So let's all get that clear. The State School of Texas is the University of Tennessee. Don't get it twisted.
Oh Lordy.
Oh, good Lord. See, this is what happens when we try to talk about Florida and South Carolina and you let Matt be part of the conversation.
I mean, to be fair, they might be the only school with an uglier shade of orange than Tennessee. Like, I will give them that. Like,
nothing.
Texas's
orange.
Here's another thing: is Texas wears brown, and we can stop pretending it's orange. Texas wears brown. It's a shitty brown.
Yeah, it's like
it's not orange. It's brown.
The first thing my baby ate was carrots, and it literally does look like baby food carrot. Like, that's the color of Texas's orange. It's off-putting.
And they love it so much.
That's why their best uniform is just like the all white. You just remove the only color that makes them unique, and then that's actually their best outfit.
They do have a classic baseball uniform though. Like,
yeah, their baseball uniform solid.
They're grays, they're road grays with the brown font, the burnt orange. That throws me back to the NCAA baseball game on the PlayStation.
Yeah, same.
That's what I think of with that.
However, I have never in my life seen a UT fan more triggered than when we brought out the Texas Aggie uniforms. Because they're like, we're the Texas Longhorns. You can't be the Texas Aggies. And I was like, no.
Have you considered not trying to copy Big Brother?
Because they're not Big Brother? No.
Okay. I just thought since they had more titles and more success and stuff that meant they were Big Brother.
What recent success have they had?
Shelby, do you really want to go on this road?
Yes.
The last time A&M won a title, Hitler was in charge. Because Pearl Harbor hadn't happened yet when Texas A&M last won a title.
Because again, if I can't have nice things, you get you.
I mean, that's how rivalry works, right?
Yes.
Okay, so back to baseball. Yeah, so I mean, my concern, I have two concerns going into this. If we play as well as we can, like if we play as well as we did in the last 3 games of our regional, I think we have the series pretty handily. If we play like we did in the first 2 games of the series, to where our bats are just dead, and we have bat guys popping bunts up, and I mean, we have 6 people on our team that hit double-digit home runs, and for some reason we still bunt. It's like, yeah, there's a time and place for it. In the first game against Texas Tech, we had our leadoff hitter pop up 2 bunts to the pitcher, and you're just like, dude, like the guy behind you has hit 31 home runs. Like, you just don't be an out, and you're positioning your team for success. And instead, we had 2 just. I'm not trying to single just that out, but it's happened throughout the season to where right now it seems like everything is clicking. At least for the last 3 games of the regional, but throughout the season, we had early on our bullpen struggled. We went through a stretch to where we were winning games like 12-9 because our starting pitchers were struggling. And then in the series against South Carolina, our bats died. So it's like right now it seems like everybody's clicking, but I've seen enough of this team to know that at any given time those problems can pop right back up. Especially with the batters like chasing just terrible pitches. That's been a big knock. They may not strike out, but they get themselves into bad counts, and then you're letting a team's Friday starter throw to you when it's 0-2. Just because you make contact, you're not going to get a good pitch, and that's kind of doomed us throughout the season, is kind of being a little too aggressive, and then getting behind in counts, and then trying to manufacture runs with a lineup that's just we hit doubles and home runs. Like, we're not a manufacturing runs kind of team. So that's my concern going into it. But I feel pretty confident. I think we got one of the harder draws for super matchups. I think South Carolina is better than 15th just because they had some injuries down the stretch that made their record look worse than it really was. But I think we're okay.
Yeah. So I actually wrote an article last night kind of diving into both teams' strengths and weaknesses, and in my opinion, who their X factor was. And Florida doesn't have many weaknesses. That's just, it's when their offense has a bad day, then obviously that doesn't look great. But the offense still overall is one of the best in baseball. It is dynamic what they can do. And what I singled out as their weakness is their starting rotation, each one of those guys has a flaw. It is Waldrop, finds the barrel a little too often. Both he and Sproat are susceptible to the long ball. Both have allowed over 12 home runs this year. Caglione, when he's on, he's on. When he's off, he can't find the strike zone. And he has 7 starts this year where he doesn't have more than 4 innings pitched in SEC play alone. So if that's the guy you're throwing out there game 3, you're going to need, yes, Florida's bullpen has looked great, but the history there isn't a stellar bullpen. It's been guys who have stepped up and performed. So obviously Brandon Neely is a stud. He's looking better than he did to start the year, but that's still, one guy who I think everyone who is a Gator fan goes, okay, I like him on the mound. Everyone else, you still kind of remember the bad times. But the offense is undeniable. Your offense isn't going to be on every day, but especially with BT Riopel hitting like he's hitting, it just lengthens that lineup. You said it earlier, 6 guys with double-digit home runs, nation leader in home runs who's also pitching, and he's arguably not even the best hitter on your team. I think Wyatt Langford is the best hitter on that team.
Wyatt Langford's if Cruz wasn't as good as he is, Wyatt Langford would probably be the first overall pick. I think Cruz and Screen, I think they have 1-2 locked up, but I think Wyatt Langford's the only other person that's really in that conversation. But I'm not sure if you read this when you're doing your research, but he had an injury early in the season.
Yep. That's the only reason, in my opinion, he's not a Golden Spikes finalist.
He tore his scrotum, by the way. That was the injury that he had, was a torn scrotum that required surgery, and he was out for like 3 weeks. So yeah, if he didn't have that stretch, he's probably looking at 24 to 25 home runs, and he's hitting right around 400. I mean, he's a stud.
Like 380 or something.
Yeah. So I'm with you there.
Yeah, but going back to looking at the South Carolina squad, this is a team that their weakness is they strike out a ton. It's part of their approach. They want to go in and see pitches and work counts, and that's why they're so effective against Caglione when he was pitching, because he doesn't find the strike zone as frequently as the other guys. And so when you have a guy who doesn't throw 70% of his pitches for strikes, and then a team that doesn't swing at balls because they want to work the count, then your guy's going to be out of the game in a hurry. And Florida series, we also saw South Carolina hit for power, which is those two offenses to me are very, very similar. Both, I think they have the ability to manufacture runs at the bottom of the lineup, but they want to kill you with doubles and home runs at the top of the lineup. They want to kind of break you with a big inning early. And it's, South Carolina, if especially Sproat and Waldrop have the stuff to shut down any offense on any given day. If they can locate and work in the strike zone, or at least around the strike zone, and not leave pitches over the heart of the plate, I think they can be very successful, because we saw South Carolina's offense struggle against guys who are pounding the strike zone, but not just floating it in there. But South Carolina's pitching staff, talk about, you mentioned earlier, just riddled with injuries. There's been depth on pitching. Pitching hasn't been where they've fallen down. You're getting Will Sanders back, and we know he hates Florida. He has a career ERA of 2 against Florida, which is exactly what you want from your most senior pitcher on the staff. He's junior, but he's gone anyway. Jack Mahoney's stepped up. James Hicks is throwing game 1 for us, who wasn't even a starter to start the year. And you got arguably one of the best bullpens, I think, outside of Tennessee, the best bullpen in the SEC, even with guys who are hurt and guys who've had to step up and fill up rotation spots. So South Carolina, if they can neutralize at least some of the bats in Florida's offense, you're not going to neutralize all of them. But you can't let Caglione hit a 3-run homer. You can let him hit a solo shot. You can't let him hit the 3-run homer. So I think we're going to see 3 games, not just one of those series where it feels like it. I think we're going to see both teams panic at some point just because of everything that's on the line. But I'm fully expecting 2 very well played games to start out, and then all hands on deck for game 3.
Yeah, I kind of have a similar projection. I like you were saying, so Sproat, you were talking about Sanders hating Florida. Sproat's numbers against Florida in his career: 2.86 ERA, 22 innings pitched, 8 walks, 20 strikeouts. So I think that the Sanders and Sproat matchup, like I think that's something that you have 2 guys who have dominated their opponent. Or the problem with Sproat is that by far his worst performance in his career against South Carolina is the most recent one. So maybe there's a tell there. Maybe somebody, South Carolina's figuring him out a little bit. Like you were saying, Waldrop and Sproat, when they're on, they're 2 of the probably top 10 or 15 best pitchers in the country. When they're off, and we saw it a little bit in the, I'm trying to think what number it was, the UConn game and the Texas Tech game a little bit. Walks. I mean, just letting guys get on base. We had hit batters, things like that, to where you're bringing in Brandon Neely, you're bringing in Philip Abner, you're bringing in your kind of best relief pitchers in these high leverage situations because of lack of control. And like that's just, it's kind of like holding penalties in football or false starts. It's like you give your opponent enough rope and eventually they're going to hang you. And it's like that's what we've been guilty of, probably more so than really being outplayed. It's really just the lineup and the players, the talent that we have, making those unforced errors. Literally fielding errors, hit batters, walks, things like that. So a patient lineup against Waldrop and Sproat and Cags. I so the report came out today that they're going to go back to their usual weekend rotation of Sproat, Waldrop, Cags. But I'm very curious if it does go to game 3. You mentioned how few innings Cags has pitched. Part of that is because he's a DH. He's the starting first baseman. And so it's kind of a weird thing to where essentially he's playing every single game and then pitching every third game. And so he has probably a shorter leash than most Sunday starters would because of that, because his bat's so important and he's always in play. But I think that if we were speaking hypothetically, if we're in game 3, I could see Cags having a pretty solid 3, 4, 5 innings and then turning it over to Abner, Neely, the bullpen, and letting them bring it home if it's a close game, just because he can get himself into trouble with walks. And once he starts losing control on the mound, he has a tendency to snowball. And I think that's the thing I'm going to be kind of interested in on if we have a game 3 is does Cags have control, because he can hit 100. I mean, it's not stuff that's his problem, it's control. And then if he is on, how long of a leash does he have if he ever gets in trouble? Because I mean, those are the two things that have kind of doomed him on the mound, even though he has the best ERA on the team of the starting pitchers. So
Yeah.
It's not that he's bad, it's just that. And from what I've read, he projects actually as a better pitcher at the next level than he does hitter. Who knows how that's going to pan out? But that's the thing that's really killed him is being able to control his stuff. And it's led to a lot of short outings because of that, to where instead of letting him continue to lumber on the mound, pull him out early, go to long relief pitchers and, let them do their thing. Yeah, but one thing I did want to mention in the South Carolina series, not that it ultimately really didn't end up mattering that much, but Brandon Neely was actually suspended for the most bullshit ejection that I have ever seen in my life. And the fact that there's basically no appeal process for it, to where an SEC ump can toss a guy in an SEC game and he's automatic. And it's an NCAA rule. It's not SEC, but the fact that you're automatically suspended for 3 games, like, that's such horseshit. Like that, I'm getting pissed off just thinking about that ejection.
There was also no point in that series where Brandon Neely makes a difference.
Yeah, like I said, it ultimately really didn't make much of a difference. It was just one of those things to where going into it, you're like, how does your closer get ejected before arguably? I would say the Vanderbilt series ended up being the biggest series of our year, just because that's what clinched us the SEC regular season title, because they ended up losing to Arkansas at the end of the year. But that South Carolina series, we both were like top 5 at the time.
Yep.
And it was just like, oh, your closer's out. Like we're possibly trying to be the number 1 team, and then we get swept. So it really didn't matter. But yeah, that was an interesting thing was that ejection. It reminded me of, that was such bullshit. I'm still mad about it.
All right. So who are we picking for this series? I know who Ethan and AJ are picking. We know that.
Well, it sounds like AJ said top 3. Ethan, you got what?
Say it, what?
It sounds like AJ said he's got South Carolina in 3. You have Florida in what?
I got Florida in 2.
Ooh.
I have Florida in 2 as well.
I think that Waldrop and Sproat, I think they hold it down on the first 2 games. I think the way they pitched in regionals, I think they carry that over, and I think that they shut South Carolina's bats down.
I'm going to play the devil's advocate here, and I'm going to go South Carolina in 3 then, because they have a live chicken.
Yep. Sir Big Spur.
Florida used to have a live alligator, but for some reason we got rid of it. I don't know.
I'm sorry, but I was at it was the A&M South Carolina game that I was there for my birthday, not this past year, but the year before. When it was at Kyle Field, and they're like, "Here's Sir Big Spur." I was like, "I'm sorry, that's a chicken." Like, pause. Y'all have a fucking live chicken.
You should see him at home games for football. Well, for baseball, we set him up down the first baseline. He has like his own little stand. You can take pictures and hold Sir Big Spur. But for football, he has a mobile cart that we drive out to the middle of the field as we're doing like our 2001. Everybody's getting ready to take the field, and he'll just spin around, and then we'll take him back off on the cart.
All right, sure.
I mean are you gonna make fun of our tradition, Miss A&M?
No, but
I will.
I mean, I guess it's a live chicken.
It is Sir Big Spur.
Wasn't there a whole thing with his name like getting possibly changed?
Yeah, so the ownership of someone actually has the copyright for the name Sir Big Spur, and the person who had that copyright was selling the chicken, so we couldn't use the name. So then it became, we're going to name him Darius Clucker. We're going to name him the Cock Commander. What are we going to?
Cock Commander, baby.
That was always my choice too.
Yeah, and then it.
Then that won.
It won, and then it got ironed out. So he's Sir Big Spur.
It's like the Bodie McBoatface. They were like, oh yeah, let's let people vote on it. Actually, these people are idiots. We're going to choose the name ourselves.
Actually, no one asked you, so. All I remember, so we have Rev run out, like before the team runs out. And the only good memory, like happy memory or fun memory I have of that is I was sitting like right where the tunnel is, where the team runs out, and Rev's handler turns to one of the dancers and goes, "Hold this." And she's like, "Yeah, okay." And she holds it, and this is Rev's first game. New Rev's very first football game, and she lets go for a second, and she bolted. She was gone. And we were like, "Well, Rev's on the other side of the field, guys. She gained more yards than anybody else did that day."
So why haven't we trained Miss Rev Colonel? I always want to say Colonel Rev, which I know is like Ole Miss's thing, but why haven't they trained her to get the T after kickoffs?
Because it's not her job. She's a lady. Ladies don't need to do that.
Okay.
A lady.
2023. That's
Didn't Vanderbilt have a lady kicker, like literally kicking the ball off the tee? But the female dog
that was even worse.
So she can actually kick the ball off the tee, but training the dog to retrieve the tee is below her. I just want to make sure I understand where female dog versus actual female human is in your hierarchy. You have to understand
that Miss Rev is the queen of Aggieland.
It makes perfect sense.
If there is dirt on the ground, her handler will pick her up and walk her over the dirt, so her paws don't get dirty. This is the queen of Aggieland.
And then when nobody's looking, she's licking her asshole.
That too. Uh-oh. We lost
his screen was dead for a minute there. I think he disconnected or something.
Oh, I thought he just decided we were fucking.
That may have turned him off a little bit, but no, he was sitting there frozen for a minute or two.
Well, hopefully he comes back. Let's see. Either way, yes, Queen of Aggieland, highest ranking member of the Corps of Cadets, Queen Rev.
So is the Corps of Cadets an actual military militia or any? Do they actually have any importance besides being a cult?
Besides being a cult? No, but most of them commission into the military.
It's like an ROTC type of thing.
Yes.
That makes sense at school.
Yeah. Florida has an ROTC program too, and when I played intramural flag football, they had a team in our division. And I shit you not, these guys ran like 2 miles from their dorm to the field to play the game and absolutely blasted us and then just ran back. And we were all just like we're all just like, out of shape nerds. And we're like, man, like, how the fuck are we supposed to compete with that? Like these guys they're going through PT and stuff. And we're just showing up here on a Thursday, like kind of drunk, trying to play some flag football. And then we get the damn Navy SEALs showing up.
It's fine. I'm fine. Fine.
Yeah. I didn't want to win this game anyways.
Oh, is that what we get to claim now? So every
I
time
mean,
you have to lose, I can say I didn't want to win anyway.
don't you do that already?
Yes. Except for when we play Tennessee, because I do want to beat Matt.
It is fun,
It is fun to beat Matt.
especially when they cry about the sandy field only being sandy for them.
No, what was it? Double overtime or triple overtime that your quarterback threw the ball to Armani Watts?
Listen, the Butch Jones era doesn't matter anymore. I've blocked it from my memory.
What
and we're not
about
going to talk about the Jeremy Pruitt season either.
the Derek Dooley years?
No, none of it exists. I graduated. Listen,
You went straight from Philip Fulmer to Josh Heupel.
Casey Clausen beating Alabama in overtime to Hendon Hooker. No further comment.
Jarek Guarantano is out there rolling.
No,
in his
that didn't
grave.
happen either.
Josh Dobbs ring a bell?
I mean,
Did you know that Josh Dobbs is an aeronautic engineering major?
Did you know that his head
If
looks like a
any
milk dud?
other coach besides Butch Jones had that Josh Dobbs team playoffs?
Oh my god! I'm still stuck on his head.
Y'all are wrong. He has alopecia.
Oh, I'm talking about the shape of his head.
Laughed at it. Does that
Who? There is I can't remember. I think it was Kevin Garnett. But Kevin Garnett had an incident with Charlie Villanueva, who had a similar alopecia situation, to where Kevin Garnett was talking shit to him, and he said, "You look like a cancer patient." He almost got into a fight on the court, and after the game, Charlie Villanueva was just like, "I ain't never had anybody say nothing like that to me."
Oh my god! Okay.
Those were his words, not mine. I do
I-
not advocate making fun of alopecia sufferers. I'm bald, so we're close. We're cousins.
Is that the?
And
I don't think that sufferers is the word for that, but we're gonna give it to you.
Thank you. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Victims.
Victims. Victims was my second choice, but I was like, are they really victims? I mean,
No,
I actually had alopecia in the 11th grade and lost all the hair off of my head. So,
wow.
I've been there, done that. So
Well, I
that's
guess
why I made
I was about to say you're allowed to make fun of it then.
yeah, that's why I made the milk dud joke.
Yeah, that's like when I call somebody a ginger, or call somebody chubby. It's like, hey, I'm a chubby ginger. I'm allowed to say that stuff.
All right, so that brings us to Alabama and Wake Forest, which starts on Saturday at 11 a.m. Fun times for Alabama.
Wake's gonna kill him.
I've got whoever Alabama has money on. Has that bet come in yet?
Bro, I didn't even think about that until just now. How the hell is there a team that's actively involved in a gambling scheme, scandal, whatever? How are they still allowed? How are they allowed in the playoffs?
Dude, Alabama, the same reason a murderer led them to the SEC championship in basketball.
You mean when they murdered their way through the SEC?
Yeah, exactly.
So I hate to keep getting off on a sidetrack here.
No, you
24/7 Sport. No, I don't. 24/7 Sports is Alabama site. All of their writers left to go to a competing company. They hired a guy who was a reporter for AL.com to come in and work for their Bama Online staff. This guy wrote an article about how dumb Nate Oates' wrong place, wrong time comment was, and had tweets talking about Brandon Miller. You know, he shouldn't have been there, shouldn't have done that. He's not as innocent as they want. And I shit y'all not, these Bama fans were giving this guy hell for reporting on what actually happened. Like, literally, they were like, you should be protecting the brand. This is Bama. You should be running cover for us. And the guy, he's probably, early 20s. And he was just like, what do you, number one, I'm supposed to be impartial. What the hell are you guys talking about? But Bama fans have to be the most, like, I don't want to say delusional, but self-righteous to where, like, they think that any punishment they receive is unfair to them while every other team in the country has to deal with bullshit. And now their baseball and basketball teams just get off scot-free with blatant fuck-ups.
I actually don't I'm of the school of thought where it's done and the head coach was gone before anything came out. And so, I mean, the only person who is doing anything wrong is the head coach. And
That's no fun.
You're going to punish the kids for something they didn't even know about. Just because your coach is going, hey, I'm going to go and through somebody's dad who is up in Cincinnati, I'm just going to, place a bet or several large bets on college baseball. And the kids, they don't know. I guarantee you, every single one of those guys had no idea their coach was betting $50,000 on them to win a game or not. And to punish those kids, I think letting them play the thing, they're still going to get railed by Wake. That's not changing.
I don't know. Pete Rose still isn't in the Hall of Fame. So if we're gonna have like Calvin Ridley just had a year suspension for betting on games he wasn't even playing in.
Yeah, but Pete Rose was the one placing the bets. You didn't strip the Reds or the Phillies of wins. You didn't ban them from postseason play. You got the guy who committed the crime, and it's not like it's recruiting violations. It's not like it's impacting who is actually on the team. I'm sure he did change how he managed some games. I'm absolutely sure he had to have. But the kids don't know that. Andrew Pinckney's not going out there thinking, oh, coach has got an extra 10K on this game. I better go yard.
I mean, you say the kids don't know that, but do you know the kids don't know that?
Do you know that the kids do know it?
I don't. But I'm not confidently saying they do. I'm just throwing it out there. What if a relief pitcher, the coach comes to a relief pitcher and says, hey, I got a $50,000 bet on this, groove one down the middle. I mean, at that, I don't know. It's really like I agree with you. It's not a recruiting violation. It's if it's seemingly isolated to one person, no, don't punish the players. But that defeats the point that I was trying to make, which is fuck Bama. And so if we take it easy on them, it's kind of hard to say fuck Bama if we let them off easy.
Well, that's my point. Is you let them get off with the coach getting fired, and they make this great run, and they host, and they come through and win their regional, and then they just get straight up fucked by Wake Forest. That's where I'm getting them. Like, get them on the baseball field. Yeah. That way, the coach got it off the baseball field. He's probably going to jail, and now the baseball team's going to get it on the baseball field. They had undeniably a great year. I just don't see how they beat.
No. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, I'm going to go Wake Forest in 2 here easily. I don't think Bama has the horses that Wake Forest does. They're really just two separate, like, they're not even in the same tier in my mind.
It's almost a different sport.
Yeah. Which is weird to say that about a team like Wake Forest. Like, I don't know, I just don't ever associate Wake Forest with being good at anything, but they've actually been kind of good at most things recently.
And other news, Oklahoma is 8 outs away from another softball title.
Oh, no. You mean they're going to beat FSU? No.
You can't start counting at 8. It's softball. That's like almost half the game.
It's the top of the 5th. 1 out.
So Florida State's the home team, so they got 9 outs.
Are they?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
When does the NCAA fix that rule?
What?
That
About
they
softball?
alternate?
Is the home team the whole series?
I think it's starting next year.
I'd hope so. Florida had to deal with that to where we were the away team in the last 2 games against Texas Tech, despite the fact we were hosting the regional, because it was based off of which team had already hosted the most times, and so then it alternated. I think that's ridiculous. If you're the host,
South Carolina was the host team for the opening game against Central Connecticut State, and that was it.
Yeah, like that makes no sense. It's
I also
why
don't
even
like that you don't get to have walk-up songs or anything. Like if it's my regional, why can't I have? If I earn home field advantage, let me have home field advantage.
Yep, I agree.
Yep.
So
That's why, like A&M fans, when we hosted regionals, were literally like singing the war hymn in the top of the ninth. We're doing our ball, like we're making this home field advantage without walk-up songs and all that fun stuff. So, like you can't do sound effects and things, and we're like, y'all are no fun, like zero fun.
speaking of zero fun, I think Kentucky's in for a world of hurt against LSU.
Oh yeah, Paul Skeet's got it.
That's going to
And
be
Cruz and all them's peoples in Baton Rouge.
Of course, we did. I did say that earlier, and Kentucky's offense had the best showing against Paul Skeens of any offense in the country so far.
True.
I will say I think LSU got gifted a trip to Omaha. I feel like Kentucky, despite being the 12, 13 seed, whatever, I feel like Kentucky's worse than Bama is. And I feel like LSU getting matched with Kentucky is better than us being matched with South Carolina. I mean, I feel like despite being the number 2 seed, we got probably the 9th or 10th best team in the country, and they were placed at 15. So, I mean, when the pairings came out, and you guys had Campbell in your regional, who was almost a regional host. I mean, basically there were 2 teams in that regional that obviously South Carolina was a host, but you were a 15 seed. I think you were better than that. And Campbell was right at that cusp of being a regional host. And to me, I feel like Florida got a pretty tough draw in terms of regional pairing or super regional pairings. And I feel like LSU got the easiest by far. College baseball media loves LSU though.
They do. They do. But they hate NC State, which is why they put them with South Carolina and Campbell.
I would have been happy in any other regional but Stanford's. Literally anybody else's.
Well, I mean,
I feel like you guys would have been bounced in some of the other regionals though.
But then I wouldn't have had to wait till 8 p.m. to do so.
I mean, true.
Like fuck California time. No.
Yeah, that's
a good point. Yeah,
fair.
But now Big Brother has to go to Palo Alto and play.
Some Texas fan was all up in my mentions, like, do we still get to host now? And I was like, no. I'm like, but
so
why?
who would have ended up hosting that game? Did we ever get an answer on that? How would that have worked out?
Southern Miss would have hosted them.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, gotcha.
Can we also talk about Kentucky and their poverty state putting teams in dorms, getting to host a regional in the first place?
Yeah, I don't know how the NCAA. Like, I feel like that's a question you ask. Hey, do you have hotels?
Submit. You have to submit. Hey, here's where we have. And I don't know if Kentucky lied or the NCAA said who cares. We need to figure out whoever the selection committee is. That'll tell you. USM is hosting us because one of their players' dads is on the committee. Anybody who thinks it's anything else besides maybe Brett Favre is dumb.
So y'all think that's bad, putting players in hotels? Have y'all seen what happened to Indiana State?
Yeah, they put players in a graveyard in left field.
that they have to go to Fort Worth and play at TCU because the Special Olympics were booked at their stadium. So, kudos to them. But in terms of planning and making decisions on who gets what and who goes where, how did nobody at Indiana State or the NCAA realize, hey, if these guys have to host a super regional, their stadium's not going to be usable? Why not? How did that slip through the cracks?
Like that's purely on the athletic director.
I don't blame Indiana State.
I don't blame them.
Assuming they didn't lie, I don't blame Indiana State and I don't blame Kentucky. Because you have to submit, hey, here's what we have going on these weekends. Here's the accommodations we have. This, that, and the other. If the NCAA was stupid enough, which, shocker, to do that, it's on them, but it's stupid. That's two teams that shouldn't have even hosted regionals because of what they had.
Yeah, I mean,
honestly,
I don't know enough about Indiana State to say if they should have hosted a regional or not, but Kentucky definitely should. I feel like that was just a.
I'm assuming their resume said they should, but I'm talking based strictly on accommodations and the criteria the committee sets forth to be able to host. Neither one of them should have hosted.
Indiana State, I have no problem hosting a regional. It was the super regional. Their athletic director did not put in a bid to host a super regional. I don't know if that's lack of faith in your baseball program or just thinking that, the 3 seeds are going to advance and you're just going to be heading there anyway. But that didn't happen.
Or maybe put a bid in for supers because of this Special Olympics. But if you're the NCAA, you got to have the foresight to say, if they can't host a super, then we can't let them host a regional.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good point. I mean, I feel like
Yeah, but then if you're the NCAA, you're put in the position of having to explain that of, hey, we didn't give the team with the number 9 RPI a host because they couldn't host a super when they're also not a top 8 national seed and guaranteed to host a super anyway.
Well,
so that puts you in a tough
that
position.
Labeled out the criteria. Hey, they don't meet the hosting criteria as far as the city's concerned. Sorry.
But then the argument comes unfair.
Or go to a neutral site. I mean, everybody already heads to Omaha. Football has bowl games. Basketball has everything across the country. I like the regionals. I like the super. I like that setup. But be proactive and identify these edge cases to where a team can host a regional but can't host a super. Well, instead of giving home field advantage to the team that really didn't earn it throughout the year, go to a neutral site.
Yep.
But where would
go to Omaha? Go to Omaha.
Go to Omaha, really. Congratulations.
Go to Hattiesburg.
Yeah, ask Brett Favre to
even better.
You up a stadium.
Even better, go to Knoxville. They're not using their stadium right now.
We should be. Come on, you'll make some money coming here more than you will in Hattiesburg.
See, I don't think Tennessee fans truly understand the environment at Southern Miss. I'm not comparing cities. I'm not comparing restaurants, hotels, accommodate. I'm comparing just the environment at Southern Miss's ballpark and Tennessee's ballpark. It is an undeniable fact that there is more room for press. There is a higher room for seats and tickets at Southern Miss than Tennessee. That's
but go by the NCAA's criteria, which is accommodation, strength of schedule, RPI, record against common opponents. Pick one baseball stat besides up and up record, which is not fair to do with USM's and what? AAC?
In their Conference USA, right?
Conference USA versus the SEC.
They left Conference USA. They are in.
I know they're in the Sun Belt for football, but I don't know if that's the same for baseball.
I think they're in the Sun Belt now because they just left. They just left Conference USA.
Do we think that Hattiesburg hosts if the kid's dad is not on the committee?
Kid's dad now plays for South Carolina, so
the kid's dad plays for South Carolina. That's not fair.
The son plays for South Carolina now. He's our second baseman.
He's no longer at USM.
No.
I heard that. I knew they had the former AD. Okay. Either way, I don't think there's a real good.
AJ just took a giant needle and just popped that whole conspiracy theory balloon you were rocking. Like, just with one.
Can we just appreciate the fact that for once Matt didn't argue?
I mean, I don't know. You know better than I do.
I'm going to be honest. If I was in Matt's shoes and I thought that the opposing team had a family member on a committee that makes this decision, I'd probably be saying the same thing. Like,
it's been talked about. Look, I don't go triple, quadruple research this shit. I got stuff to do.
You use alternative facts, right?
Now, listen. The other thing is, that's fine. Let us be an underdog again. Let us wear black for the 2 days that we're going to be there because we're only going to be there for 2 days. and then let's move on. It's fine.
Move on home
Notre
or
Dame
move
again.
on?
Move on to Omaha.
Okay, that's what you said last year too.
Well, and last
I
year,
had somebody try and tell me that
Yeah.
last year's Tennessee baseball team was considered one of the best of all time.
they were on
Despite the
pace to
fact
be the greatest
on
baseball
pace,
team
but
to
you
ever play.
don't even get into that conversation unless you make it to Omaha. Like,
Nah,
don't nobody
Yeah,
care
you
about
can't
what
I
Omaha.
know. Listen, we learned a hard lesson. We should have looked across the SEC West and seen Arkansas's entire existence and known to shut up and just let it play out. That was our fault. We've learned from it. It's fine. You lose some, you win some. It is what it is.
The problem is you lose 8 starters off of that team, and all 8 are pro caliber players.
And here we're still sitting in the supers. So, you know, we still have a pretty damn good team. We still have the best bullpen in the SEC. We still have 3 legitimate MLB starters and one that was a legitimate MLB starter who's now a closer for us. We have a good team. Do we have the same players we had? No. We don't have Ben Joyce out there throwing 105. We don't have Drew Gilbert over there making all of y'all cry and just fucking cry like he had y'all doing last year. It's fine.
And then getting thrown out and acting like a kid who got caught with his hand in the cookie
Listen,
jar.
we all agree that umps all just need to be taken, gathered up, moved wherever you'd like, and I'll leave the rest up to your imagination because I'm not going
robot
to get in trouble or
robot
canceled.
umps. 2 words for you so you don't get canceled.
See,
Robot umps.
This is what I love about if you bring up Tennessee fans and umpires last year. It's Tony V bumps into an umpire, which I don't care who you are, you can't do that. And then it gets tossed out, and the umpire sucked. That's not a debate, but you can't bump into an umpire.
But
And
that's
then
fine. Throwing out the Clemson kid last weekend was a joke.
Oh, that was a joke.
Yeah, and then you look at Drew Gilbert looking back at an umpire and staring at him, going, "You're fucking terrible. You're terrible." And then getting
being fucking terrible. That solves the issue at hand.
And then getting surprised. You know the magic word for an umpire?
Yeah, any word that comes out of your fucking mouth.
The magic word for an umpire is you. If you call sucks, if you say whatever, then they're gonna let you go. But if you say you to an umpire, that's when you get in trouble.
I saw a video today, and I think it was minor league, but apparently some batter came out of the batter's box or came out of the dugout, took a trash can, put it behind home plate, and said, "That's you."
2 things need to happen to umps and to get a change. No, this is serious. One, and I think this needs to happen in Major League Baseball where there's enough games to do this, is when an ump is just shitty. Because usually, especially in MLB, they are shitty for both sides. Both teams just need to go back in the dugout, go in the room, and just hang out and just be done playing. Every time Angel Hernandez is the home base ump, you don't come out.
He's only umpired 1 game this year in the MLB.
Well, and I haven't heard as much shit yet. Granted, I don't start watching MLB till much later on because I don't have the time in my day.
I thought you were going to come out with a thing that I'm definitely in support of is umpires have press conferences after games like players and coaches.
Oh, I think all officials in all sports should. But no, my second one is somebody just needs to deck one. Somebody important.
Shohei Ohtani just goes out and just
learn that you're not
levels.
safe. Learn that you being
Can we let
objectively bad at your job, on top of being a super dick about it, is not okay.
Is anybody surprised this is coming from a Tennessee fan?
I was just about to say.
Do any of you disagree?
Yes. No, you don't hit anybody. Don't punch
Oh
anybody.
my god.
No,
Hit them with a bat.
You have a
Can we let
system.
Mike do it?
You have a system where you review their calls, and if they're objectively terrible, then they don't get to umpire anymore.
I get why they don't do that. It's because you have to have 4 of them out there.
And everybody has a bad day at work. Everybody has.
They don't have good days. That's the fucking issue.
And that's the thing, though, is they do that, though, right? Like, I don't know necessarily about the MLB, but I know NFL and NBA, the referees are graded and evaluated. And only the best performers throughout the year get to go to the playoffs, get to go to the finals, Super Bowl, whatever. I assume MLB has something similar in place, maybe not. Okay. But I will agree that MLB umps are as bad about calling and honing in on little stupid dumb shit as the NBA refs are at not calling anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like I hate watching NBA now because everybody carries and everybody travels and they take like 17 steps and it just never gets called. And it's like the foul. I'm getting so totally sidetracked here, but like the fouls and the hand checking and all that stuff, I think that's good. Basketball is not meant to be a tackle sport. The traveling and the carrying on top of that, it makes it just it's not even the same game. Like it's ridiculous. And baseball, I feel like baseball, it's just like an offensive lineman. Like you shouldn't know their name. Like if you know their name, that means they're fucking up, and like that's when it's a problem.
Yeah, well, it's the one sport. Basketball has a little bit of it, but it's so like I take something personally because you're upset at a call I made, so now I'm going to interject myself in the game. I guess I'm sure it does. I'm sure I could find examples in football, but for the most part, I mean, coaches will dog cuss a ref up and down the sideline with little to no reaction from the ref. If an umpire thinks you are disrespecting them, they'll throw you out of a game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I think that's just different sports because if you look at an umpire sideways in basketball, you get teed up. Yeah. Like it's just different standards for each sport, which I completely disagree with. We've seen in baseball and softball, people get thrown out for dumb things, things that aren't offensive, things that are not directed at an umpire. Umpires inject themselves into a game, which, like Ethan said, you can't. No one should know your name if you're an umpire.
And I feel like umpires in baseball have way more autonomy than the rest of the umpire. Like NBA, if a call is questionable, the other 3 or 4 referees get together and say, "Hey, I saw it from the other side. That's not how it was. We need to reverse this. We need to change this. Whatever. Maybe it's a flagrant 1 instead of a flagrant 2. Whatever." Football, same way, to where the refs get together and reverse it. They review it. Baseball. And like you're saying, like that's my problem with the umps is it's not, oh, I made a shitty call. Now I need to make up for it on the next pitch that's 2 inches outside. It's, oh, this person looked at me for too long and now I ran them. This person yelled from the dugout to go fuck yourself. And now they're out of the game and suspended for 3 games.
Yeah.
Like that.
Wow, that's the other.
Like that's the thing. And there's no stopping
no review process either.
There's no review. The other refs can't step in. Like, and then the only solution is what? The manager comes out and starts raising hell, and then he gets kicked out too. Like, or the unwritten rules, right? Where a guy gets tossed, and then the next thing you know, somebody's getting a fastball in the back, or they're charging the mound, or that doesn't really happen anymore. But you get the scenario to where the umps shittiness allows the players to take things into their own hands, and then you have these unwritten rules that ultimately end up with guys getting hurt.
That's why I think I don't walk back any of my statements about hitting these umps, but
Odor would do it.
I think the best course of action I think teams, especially in MLB, because it's easier to do. It's hard to do. Not every win matters in college baseball, but every win matters much more than like a Wednesday night doubleheader, Marlins, Angels.
Yeah.
Just don't come out. Or just, hey, managers talk. We're just going to go sit in the dugout, and we're not doing anything else. And we're going to show the MLB, Rob Manfred, all the TV executives, everybody who needs this money flowing, that we're not going to play this game.
I feel like it would have to be. I feel like it would have to be like the Yankees and the Red Sox or the Cubs or the Dodgers.
Like on Sunday night at ESPN.
Yeah. Like I feel like if the Marlins and Angels did it, I feel like nobody would even know that it happened because
fair enough. I'm saying because of those games, you can do it.
It's like the Bucks. Like the Bucks did that with the George Floyd thing to where they said we're not going to play until this is figured out. Or maybe it was the T-Wolves. I don't remember which one it was.
It was the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, and so maybe it was Flando Castile. It was, one of those incidents, unfortunately. Yeah. But so it would require something like that to where it's like, hey, and I feel like it would have to come on the heels of a high-profile incident to where it finally broke the straw that broke the camel's back. But I mean, I'm with you. I mean, I could see that being an effective strategy because you have to get attention to it. I mean, everybody knows it's happening, but the average person doesn't care enough about baseball to take it personally. And then the baseball fans have been dealing with it for their entire life. So it's like, how do you get that change enacted without doing something drastic?
Yeah. I agree with both of y'all. Southern Miss in 3.
See, this is how it goes, man. You know, we get sidetracked. I'm gonna go Southern Miss in 2.
In 2.
He said
Yeah,
things and you
yeah,
go.
they got it. They're saving their arms for Omaha when they get real competition.
Oh,
I'm not. Absolutely not. It's Tennessee in 2. You could maybe talk me into Tennessee in 3. Whichever game we decide to roll Burns out to close, we don't lose.
Unless he gives up 5 like he did against
Yeah,
South
so
Carolina,
when
right?
your closer comes out, that means that you're gonna win. That's
I'm
usually how
not-
baseball goes.
No, when we decide it's Burns is the guy coming out.
Oh, is he the Eric Gagne of Tennessee? I don't know. I know about Florida baseball. I don't know about Southern Miss baseball. I know a little bit about Tennessee and watch South Carolina, but
I know
yeah.
very little about Southern Miss. I pretty much only watch SEC. I make sure I sit down to watch Tennessee, and then if time allows, I watch other games in the SEC.
Tanner Hall is the best pitcher in college baseball you probably haven't heard of. He's
definitely a pitcher I haven't heard of.
He is first-round caliber. He was, I mean, Hurst number 2 because he was behind Tanner Hall. Tanner Hall went and just absolutely shoved to start the regional. Came back and threw a couple innings on the winner go home game for Southern Miss to end the regional. But he is
He had
first
to come
round
back
caliber.
from 05 against Penn.
hey, don't hate on Penn now.
No, that was a cupcake regional. That was another team that shouldn't have hosted in Auburn. I wonder how that happened. I wonder who's the chairman of that committee. We'll leave that alone. All I'm saying is that was a whole ass cupcake regional. I'm not where you still had to lose and go win it and beat Penn twice. Come back from 05 to Penn. Get down 05 to Tennessee. See how it works. It ain't. You're not coming back.
Hey, don't sleep on the Ivy League now.
Penn was a good team.
To Penn, but they're, you know.
Penn was a very talented team.
Was it the second weekend of the season, opening weekend, that we lost two
Penn won more games in that regional by 2 than they would have won in any other regional.
Matt, I just want to tell you some Tanner Hall stats real quick. 2.08 ERA, 12-3 on the year, WHIP of 1.02, 119 strikeouts, 32 walks. Batting average against of 200.
I bet he gives up 3 homers.
I mean,
he's given up 5 all year. So
I bet he gives up 3 this weekend.
The walks and the batting average, 200's not bad, but that's not necessarily dominant to me. I could see if he, and again, this is just completely speaking out of my ass off the statistics you just read out. I've never seen this guy pitch. I've never heard this name. I mean, to me, if you get guys on base, that's where even the best pitchers can get rocked. Mm-hmm. And Southern Miss, if they have one ace and he gets into any trouble, I mean, I think you could get swept pretty quickly there just because of how quickly college baseball can escalate.
Oh, I'm not saying he's unbeatable. I'm just saying
he better be, because I said Southern Miss in 2. So
he's a true ace.
You got Southern Miss in 2, Southern Miss in 3. Shelby,
I will not wear that gaudy orange. It's not in my color wheel, and I will not wear it. On that note, Southern Miss in 2. Sorry.
Let the record state that everyone else in the SEC Bias podcast hate welfare recipients and believe that they deserve less so that Brett Favre's daughter can play volleyball. I didn't say it. Y'all made the comments. I would just like to point it out to the world.
You just want to assault people trying to make an honest living. That's what you said earlier.
If there was anything honest about the living they were making, we could have a different conversation. The whole preface of this is they're not honest, good-hearted, working people.
Have you met them?
I've seen them. Look at them. Behind every umpire mask.
See, now
is
you're
some
judging people
shitty
based off their
baseball
looks.
player
There is
that
nothing
couldn't
more
crack
Tennessee
JV
fan than
in high
judging people off their looks. That is.
Behind every umpire is a shitty JV high schooler.
The only umpire I remember is the one who threw out Adrian Beltre for moving the on deck circle.
That was funny. That's a good time.
Highlights of my Rangers fandom.
Again, if you know them, they're bad, and we know too many names, we know too many faces.
That was something Davis.
I do feel like baseball has the fewest, and basketball is not far behind them, but the fewest number of former players turned referees. I feel like there's NFL refs who either played in college, have been involved with the game. But I feel like baseball, none of those guys ever played baseball at any kind of high level. I feel like they all just are living vicariously through themselves.
And look, you don't have to. I don't think you have to be a coach necessarily, to be an ump. It's something about baseball. It's just the kid who cared way too much, probably walked around with the freaking whatever his team was, that little baseball card in his backpack. And, it's cool. Not everybody can be cool in high school. I certainly wasn't, top of anything. But, umps are just losers. Have you ever met an ump that's not just a loser?
I've never met an ump, period.
Well, that's good. That means you hang around people who aren't fucking losers. And I don't think that's for officials in any other sport. Baseball umps are not good people.
I mean, there's a reason they're the ones who are getting phased out by robots. You don't hear anybody in basketball or football or hockey asking for robot umps or refs.
Right.
It's
Nobody has a problem with Ed Hockey's.
Yeah.
Got a problem
And
with
if you did, I bet you wouldn't say it to his face.
Exactly. And there's not an ump in America that I won't tell him exactly how I feel. That's my point. That is my point.
Okay, enough umpire hate. We're here. This is a show of love. We do not advocate violence on anybody unless you're from Tennessee. So let's run through these. Stanford versus Texas.
Stanford in 2.
Completely unbiased.
Stanford in 3.
I don't know that I'm unbiased when I say it, but I think Stanford in 2 as well.
Okay, I'm going Texas in 3.
Get out! We are not friends anymore.
I don't believe he believes that.
I don't believe he believes
You guys,
that.
number one, I can't stress how little I know about anybody else's team except for Florida's. I watched
Stanford. I watched them all weekend.
I know more about MLB baseball than I do college baseball.
So
I'm speaking completely out of my ass on all these projections except for the Florida-South Carolina one, which I did know a lot about.
My new For You page on Twitter, where now everything's the For You and the following. For You is everything Tennessee still. And then because of Robert, our other A&M super fan, and Shelbie, I know everything about A&M. I know everything about the Dallas Stars. I know way too much about the Rangers. My whole page is like Tennessee, Dallas Stars, Tennessee, high school coaching, Texas A&M. I mean, I caught myself in the middle of an 8-page thread about Ryan Tannehill being the backup quarterback and starting receiver before I went to practice today.
Oh my God.
Oh, the algorithm's betraying you.
Yeah, the algorithm is like.
You need to go back to the following page.
Texas, they're like, you might like this.
So you know how sad I was when the Dallas Stars lost to Vegas?
Yes, and that's about how sad I'm going to be when the Florida Panthers end up getting humiliated by them.
Let's see how that's going because it's happening right now.
All right. So did we ever pick LSU versus Kentucky? We all picked LSU, right?
We all picked LSU.
I've got LSU in 3.
LSU in 2.
Yeah, I'm going LSU in 2. Kentucky, I don't think they're very good. Maybe I'm wrong, though. I don't like LSU, but maybe I'm wrong.
We all picked Forest and led what, 2?
Yep, Wake Forest in 2. So Virginia, yeah.
I don't know anything about either of those teams.
Which 2? I'm sorry,
Virginia and Duke.
Virginia in 3.
I'm going to go with that because I know nothing.
I'm going to go with Duke in 3 only because their AD old AD was the father of our AD, and if I'm going to pick a team in Virginia to be a fan of, it's go Hokies. Fuck the Cavs.
Fair. I'm going Duke in 3.
TCU and Indiana State. Can I pick Indiana State because fuck TCU?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because honest to God, I have way too many sad memories surrounding TCU. Even though he's my coach.
I feel like Indiana State
Yeah.
has the potential to be like that Coastal Carolina team a few years ago, to where like they're like, the one thing I do, I know Indiana State can mash. Like I know that I think they have like a top 5 home run rate in the country. Like those dudes can rake. I'm going Indiana State in 3. I think that they got a little magic in the Sycamore, and even though they're going to be in Fort Worth, I think they get hot, and I think that they mash. What?
Ain't nothing good in Fort Worth.
The Sycamores are.
Yeah. Hey, there you go.
Yeah. But before the year, I had my bold prediction is we have 2 mid majors in Omaha, and Southern Miss and Indiana
You're gonna get
State
one, but it ain't
would
gonna
be those
Southern
2
Miss.
big mid majors. So
About
I'm riding with Sycamores. I think they shock the world and win it in 2.
I think you've got to have a Cinderella team. Indiana State's my pick. My dad's from Muncie. Favorite player, Larry Bird, because that's all that's in Indiana at the time in the 80s. So I'll go Indiana State.
And Oral Roberts in Oregon.
I was about to say there's another mid-major to give you a chance at your bold prediction being true.
ORU sounds fun. I think it's funny that if you pull up the actual ESPN thing, it says that Oregon is 0-0. So apparently Oregon's not played any games this season, but they get to go to Super Regional.
With a big shout out to Vegas Reb, Oral will not blow it. They beat Oregon in 3.
I can't be friends with Vegas right now because he's too happy about the Stars losing.
That doesn't sound like a pick.
Oh, you want to pick? Oh, okay. Let's see. Oral Roberts in 3 because fun.
I
know
Oregon is
either of those teams.
Oregon is legit. Oral Roberts, I think great story, 4 seed. Oregon though, I mean Pac-12 tournament champions. They're to beat Vanderbilt and beat Tim Corbin in the postseason is always hard to do.
Not after NIL. Tim Corbin and Vandy no longer have a little scholarship thing. Everybody's about to see that Tim Corbin is a good, above-average coach put in one of the best spots in baseball. Fuck Tim Corbin.
He knows how to coach in the postseason.
Only a Tennessee fan would be that passionate about Vanderbilt's baseball coach.
But I got Oregon in 2.
I'm gonna go Oregon in 2 as well. I think Cinderella, the slipper breaks. They're on a 21 game winning streak, but yeah, I think that their games in the regional were way too close. Like they didn't really inspire a lot. You win, winning is all that matters. They didn't really impress, and I know they were the 4 seed, but you know the further you go, the harder it gets. So I'm going Oregon in 2.
Affirmative. Is that everybody?
That's everybody.
Not of the circle, but all the regionals, super regionals. I feel like we're missing somebody, but I know we're not. So there's that.
I can't imagine one that matters at this point.
It can't be your team, but if you had to pick a team that's a lock to advance.
All right, so I can pick one because it's not. My team's not even in it.
I feel like all of us have to go with Wake Forest, right?
It has to be Wake.
I would go LSU if I had to pick a lock.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Bama is better than Kentucky, and I think LSU is. How can I word it? Okay, I think LSU is as good, is closer to being as good as Wake Forest is, whereas Kentucky is significantly worse than Alabama is.
The gap between the two teams is larger than.
Yeah, even though Kentucky is a higher seed and Wake Forest is a higher seed, I think that just from what I have seen of Bama and Kentucky playing Florida and what I know about LSU, I think that gap is bigger than Wake Forest and Bama. So I would go LSU, but Wake Forest would probably be my second choice.
My lock is Stanford.
My second choice.
Oh, I love that. I can't have Texas and Omaha.
My lock is Stanford. They do nothing but get back to Omaha. It's unreal what they do. But they just come out of nowhere, silent out west all year, and then here they come again. Oh, they're down by 3. Well, we'll just hit back home runs to tie it up. They do absurd things, especially out there. Pac-12 after dark is a real thing in baseball too. They're a machine. I think they're the closest thing to a machine that is currently going in college baseball right now.
And that means Texas doesn't get to go, and that's all that matters.
Yep.
Because I have taught my youngest sister that we don't like orange.
I agree.
And I said, how do we feel about
shade.
orange? And she'll walk up and go, saw them off. It's like this.
Any shade of orange is a bad shade.
Supermarket in a Texas shirt, and she walked up to them and said, "We don't like you." Saw them off.
I don't own any orange. I mean, Clemson.
Well, I mean,
Tennessee,
do people mistake
Texas.
you for a Georgia fan since you guys ripped off their color scheme?
No, that's Clemson ripping off Auburn's color scheme. That actually happened. Do you know the story about that?
I don't.
So
I thought they all ripped off Princeton.
No, so Clemson, when they were founding university, they had a couple buildings built, but they were looking to build an athletic department. And they go, okay, who has a good campus layout, good facilities? And he went around different schools and went to Auburn and gets their shade of orange and their shade of purple and their mascot, changes them all slightly, and that's how Clemson got everything. Nothing was original. They copied Auburn. And if you have to copy Auburn, that tells me everything I need to know about you as a school.
Yeah, so, Auburn is usually the one copying off of somebody else's paper.
Yeah, I mean, pick a mascot. Like, are you War Eagle? Are you a Tiger? What is? But no, never. I don't bark at people, so I don't get mistaken for a Georgia fan.
I will say at least 3 of us here have original mascots. Speaking of ripping people off, at least there's only one Gamecock. There's only one Gator. There's only one Volunteer.
There are actually 2 Gamecocks, but they got it after us. Jacksonville State.
True. And they're coming to FBS. So yeah, that'll eliminate that. Well, Matt, looks like it's just me and you, the only people that need originality here.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, we're as usual. We're carrying water for everybody else.
Oh my Lord!
All right, y'all.
Don't give Ethan anything that makes him feel special. He'll run with it.
I mean, do you see this unicorn? Look, I just noticed I have this unicorn right here. That's how I know I'm special. It's always sitting on my shoulder. I didn't even notice this was here until just this moment where I have this pretty little unicorn here. Yeah, so I know I'm special. I mean, greatness awaits.
All right, we'll see y'all on the other side of Supers.
Y'all have a good one. We'll catch up later. Yep, thanks, AJ. See you, Matt.
Go Vols.
Go Gators.
Go
Cox.